Alrighty, hello and welcome to the show. I'm Darkside Phil, of course, and I hope you're all doing well. Today is Saturday, the 23rd of March, 2023. Right now, it's like gaming chaos, but everyone is enjoying games for the most part. There is so much stuff going on right now in gaming. Just this last week, we had the release of Alone in the Dark on Wednesday, Rise of the Ronin, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Princess Peach, whatever the hell it's called, on Friday. So within a 3 day span, we have four high profile new releases that have come out. So pretty much no matter what you're interested in, you're probably enjoying. Now, keep in mind, people are still wrapping up playthroughs of games such as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and the like. So right now, gaming is at a big high. I would say this week, great variety in the amount of games that came out and the type of games that came out. And that's a good thing. Now, of course, one of the biggest, highest priority games that comes out is an RPG. So my RPG overload continues here on DSP Gaming. And it really depends on what floats your boat, honestly. So much platformer, a stealth, combat game, or an open world RPG, or a survival horror game. Now, of course, it's not like all of these are AAA releases. Alone in the Dark is a much lower profile release. Princess Peach is kind of the B team platformer. We just had Mario back in the fall. So it's still not exactly the biggest, highest priority, highest profile, ginormous games coming out, but it's good to have variety for a change. Now, here on DSP Gaming, man, I really wish I could be partaking. Imagine if right now I had a clean slate. And right now I was balancing Dragon's Dogma 2 with Rise of the Ronin, Alone in the Dark, and then maybe something else, whether it be co-op with my wife or going back to Final Fantasy. That'd be amazing. And I can't do it. Why? Because I'm still in the midst of trying to wrap up these insanely lengthy RPGs that I've been playing for months and months, and we are getting there, but RPG overload continues. And after, having thought through this whole situation, I'm just going to say this right up front. It's going to be very hard to convince me to play insanely lengthy RPGs moving forward. And what I mean by that, of course, I'm looking at Baldur's Gate 3, which now we have hit around 130 hours of gameplay, and the game is still dragging on. Today, we're going to be doing a mission where we try to recruit a dragon for the end game. Then apparently is the most annoying, tense part of the game, this Iron Throne jailbreak mission, because it's timed with a certain amount of turns or whatever, and it completely changes the gameplay of the game yet again, this far in, really annoying in my opinion. Then we've got to take care of Gortash, and then we head into the true end game of the game, which is, I guess, taking on this Elder Brain and seeing what happens. Everyone has done a great job of not spoiling me, because apparently it's a very long, epic segment to end the game, so I'm excited to see how that pans out. But man, it's funny because I have 4 days this week that I have Baldur's Gate 3 scheduled. 4. So do the math. That's 12 hours of gameplay. And FYI, people are saying, oh, you probably won't beat it this week. So I'm laying down the law now. All right? Don't ask me to play these insanely long games anymore. They don't fit my format. Okay? I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 since December. It is now the end of March. I've been playing it as a main game the entire time. It's still not done, and I'm tired. It's not that the game's not good. It's just too fucking long. All right? I don't want to be playing games for 4 straight months as a main featured stream because I have to, because it won't end otherwise. I, right now, would much rather be playing these new releases that came out this week, and I'm fucking stuck with this never-ending playthrough. Okay? So quite honestly, this is it for me when it comes to this kind of shit. And honestly, with the news that we talked about yesterday, Larian Studios coming out and saying, we're not going to make this franchise anymore. Our future projects are not going to be D&D. I almost get the feeling that I'll never really get the demand that I did for Baldur's Gate 3 again anyway. I feel like this was the anomaly. Like, listen, Larian had success in the past with Divinity Original Sin and Original Sin 2, but never did it really hit the heights that it did with Baldur's Gate 3. Probably it's that perfect combination of a licensed IP, a rabid fan base who love D&D and fantasy, and also people who want a Larian Studios game. It's like, you hit it perfectly. Um, so the way I see it, sadly, this kind of game just doesn't fit my format. It doesn't. You know, it's takes too long to get through, and it takes too much focus. Because it's funny, because some people are like, "Well, I don't understand what's the difference between this and like your Skyrim playthrough from a couple years ago." Skyrim playthrough number one was a second run. It was a casualized playthrough. It didn't need to have be focused on to really understand or make progress. And just like I just said, it's a casualized game. It's not Baldur's Gate 3. In Baldur's Gate 3, you literally have to keep playing it nonstop to immerse yourself in it. That way you're in on the lore, you remember the stakes, you know what's going on in the plot, you remember the gameplay mechanics. If you walk away from Baldur's Gate and you come back a few weeks later, you're it's like going back to square one. You know, this is a game that absolutely you need to keep being immersed in it. And I can't drop everything for 3 to 4 months of my life to play another game like this. I just can't. It doesn't fit the formula of me as a variety streamer. And everyone already beat this game in like a month. Yeah, because it's all they play. If I did that, if all I played was one game for a month, I would be out of business. Okay? Just take a look at the channel right now. Views are down, engagement's down, income is down. Because all I've been doing is playing the same fucking RPGs for a month. I can't do that anymore. I'm done with it. Okay? So that's why when I'm done
my mic's working now.
with RPG Overload and these two games complete, I am absolutely going to have variety in the schedule no matter what. I am not going to sit here with only RPGs ever again, and I'm not doing these insano long RPGs like this ever again. It's just never happening, okay? I can't.
What if it's really good? People steal you a lot of money.
Oh my God.
Will you change your mind for $1?
Today, we're doing this, but before we get to the schedule and all of that, I do want to talk about yesterday, all right? I want to talk about how things went with day one of Dragon's Dogma 2, my initial thoughts on the game, and then I want to talk a little bit about the game I didn't play, Rise of the Ronin, because even though I didn't play it, I did research, I found out about what people think about it in general, and I'd like to let you know exactly how stuff's going on social media, because unlike what I said yesterday, I was mistaken. Social media is about 50-50 right now on both Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma 2. There's about an equal amount of people talking about each game and both enjoying or criticizing them. And that's a unique thing, that there's not just one dominant game this weekend, that people kind of gone off and focused on the things that they like the most. That's good, obviously, for gaming. But that's not how it used to be. It used to be there was always one dominant game that everyone would kind of be into. And then if you're on the periphery and you're not into that style of game, you would play another one. Right now, it's like the gaming community is torn on what's the big game to be playing right now. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. That's a good thing, though. It is definitely a good thing to have more options than less. So.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about Dragon's Dogma 2 to start, shall we? So, I played 5.5 hours of Dragon's Dogma 2 yesterday. What I can tell you right now is definitely this game reminds me of a FromSoft game. And the reason I say that is not because of the difficulty, but because it doesn't really explain a lot. There's a lot of mechanics in this game that are never explained. There's no tutorial for them. It just wants you to kind of figure them out. Or you'll encounter things, and then later on it explains them. After you've already encountered them and had them as part of the game, which is kind of weird. It's almost like the tutorial pop-up is mistimed or something. But basically, the game is open, meaning you could do kind of whatever you want right from the get-go. Even though the game gives you a clear-cut path, hey, after you're through the intro, go to this town and start, you can literally run around and do whatever you want, which is neat. I like that about the game. I was actually blown away by that open nature of it. I like the pawn system. I like how the fact that when you have a party, it's you and one main pawn, and that's your core group that you're going to stick with for the rest of the game, leveling up and everything. And then you have two characters who you're always constantly summoning new. I like that you always have variety in the party. It's not just the same group over and over.
It's just like his gaming schedule. There's variety.
The story of, and two journey people who are kind of just
it's a spice of life, right?
Ride for a little bit until you over level them, and then you just summon two more people that are over your level. So that's cool. You know, it leads to creativity in the builds and things like that, which is nice. I like the combat, although admittedly, some of the criticisms of combat is that there's no lock-on system. And you would thought in a decade they would have put a lock-on system into the game, and they haven't. So it can make combat a little bit finicky when you're trying to hit a certain enemy and you do an attack and your your guy just charges the other way. You're like, oh shit! Now I blew it. I ran the other direction. I lost my stamina because I did that. But the combat's solid. Even without a
you
lock
think they
on,
didn't
it's
think
pretty
of
darn
that?
good. It's fun to tackle either mobs of enemies or a giant enemy. The giant enemy fights are still great. You know, so far I fought 2 different kinds. I fought the Cyclops and the Ogre, and they are distinctly different. They act differently, have different.
He thinks the developers of the game waited 12 years, and like over the 12 years time, they didn't think of a lock-on system. They didn't think of it. Whoop. These guys who are professional game developers who probably play a lot of games, it just slipped their mind that maybe a lock-on system would work in Dragon's Dogma, or maybe it's a design choice, or maybe they're going for a little bit more of a retro feel rather than, you know, everything being handheld. But I don't know.
For animations, and I've already seen a griffin. I've already seen what was the other one I saw? I saw another big one, but I didn't get a chance to do anything with it. I can't remember. But you know, it's probably gonna have returns of all the a Medusa. Medusa was in the intro, right? So you know that there's definitely gonna be a lot of this variety in the big monster fights in the game, and they're gonna be fun, just like in the first one. And I definitely so far am enjoying just exploring. Okay, now it's funny because I'm 5.5 hours in, and now the story has picked up. Like in the last 45 minutes of the stream last night, boom, we were like inundated with a ton of interesting story developments that leads to all these branching quests. I was like, oh, okay. So you don't really know what's going on until you finally get to this big major city, and that's the 3rd city you encounter in the game. First, there's like these 2 little towns at first. But once you get to the city, then things pick up in a big way. But basically, once everything gets into full swing, which is around 5 hours in, it's actually a very fun game. Now, unlike some other RPGs that I've played recently, all right, this game jumps right into the action. There is a small intro segment of like maybe a half an hour to 40 minutes, but then you're immediately into the game and you can do whatever you want, and you're free to explore and play it. And that's a good thing, because there's been a lot of these games I've played recently, for example, like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the intro's too long. It puts you into this narrative part that you're stuck for like 4 or 5 hours before you can play the real game. I get it. You want to lay the groundwork for the story, but that's frustrating. People want to see what the game is first, then worry about the story, not just have to watch a million cutscenes. So I'm happy the game didn't do that. I really, really enjoyed that. So far I like the game. Now there's some criticisms of the game.
I don't know if I trust that assessment. He loves like just sitting there and watching cutscenes and going, I don't know. Maybe it's a change of heart here. Maybe he's becoming a true gamer. He's like, I don't want to. I don't know. Fuck this story. Give me to the action. Give me right into the action.
Okay. Criticism number 1 is the graphics. Yes, it is absolutely true. This game has a choppy frame rate. It sucks. I don't want the game to have a choppy frame rate. I think every game that we buy for full price today should be 60 frames. But as I stated last week, the reason this is happening is because game devs are being demanded that all games run at 4K resolution. And I hate to say it, but I know for a fact the majority of people don't play at 4K. Someone already sent me the statistic.
See, that's like, didn't Resident Evil Village run at 4K 60, RE2, RE4? That is the one thing that I can't excuse for this one. I know it's a lot bigger. It's like an open world thing, but you had the resources and time.
2 years ago, it was 2022.
All the hype in the world for this game.
Someone pulled the data off of Steam, and they wanted to see, of all the games that are run on Steam, what are the actual resolutions people play. Over 65% of people play at 1080p. And then the other 35% are various resolutions, some 4K, some lower, some different. But over 2/3, or around 2/3, are still playing at 1080p.
So we just shouldn't advance the graphics at all.
Even on PC, where you would think that would be the format where everyone's going huge resolution, they're not doing it. All right? The fact that we've demanded that all game devs jump 10 steps forward in technology before they were ready to do it has resulted in our console generation where games cannot run at 60 frames. That's bullshit. So
I think it's way harder to play games at 4K on PC rather than console.
I think that's the reason why we're having these problems. The RE
it's a lot more of an investment.
This game runs on is a beautiful engine. The graphics themselves are great. The detail on the giant monsters is really cool. and every character looks awesome. All right, but the frame rate chops. It's around 30 in the main game. When you get into combat, it can go down to around 20 and then get back to 30. And a lot of people have the right to complain about this. You know, there's some things I think people nitpick. We're going to talk about one of them in a second with the microtransactions. But when it comes to resolution, when it comes to frame rate performance, in the modern day, we should be getting better than we're getting. It's sad that Capcom couldn't pull it off and that the frame rate is this bad. But it's not a bad game because of it. It's still fully playable. I never felt, oh no, I can't really play the game. What I will say is sometimes it gets chaotic with the camera because remember, there's no lock-on system. So because there's no lock-on system, you'll be jumping and climbing a monster, and if that monster runs into the woods, you can't see shit. You don't even know where you are or what's going on. You're like, what the hell's happening here? Because the camera is getting like shuffled around. By the way, it looks like
If only
I
you could lock on.
bumped my camera here. Hold on. There we go. I wanted to.
Yeah, fix
Yeah,
that
I
camera.
can tell I bumped it because you could see. Did you see that thing that was up in the corner here? That's my YouTube play button, and that's never on camera. So I must have bumped the camera.
It has his address on it, so he has to hide
Okay.
it.
So anyway, so I am enjoying the game a lot, but the graphics are the one shortcoming in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of things in this game that are going to be more tedious. For example, you have to traverse everything on foot. There's no real like riding around of anything. Darn, right? It would be better to be faster, but you're not. That's something they in Elden Ring they fixed with your mount.
I was gonna have the YouTube chat in the corner, but the thing still isn't working, so we're gonna have to like hold off on that, I guess. We'll start the game here in a second.
There's fast travel, but it's very limited. You can't fast travel all the time. You have to be getting these far stones to do.
Firestones. Full React Day of Fun. Brown yellow look he's going for. What happened to his gamer setup? He had like a bunch of shit in the background, and he just put up some big, like canvas paintings of that he got off Temu. Akira Toriyama tribute. I kind of wanted to watch his stupid Super Bowl thing. I guess that was like a month ago or something, wasn't it? Huge news day. Final Pal World thoughts. Isn't that game just beginning? Input needed on the future. Final Pal World thoughts and input needed on the future. What is that?
It's true.
Here's my thoughts on this video game. Also, help me decide what I'm going to do with my life and career.
There's another RPG.
Amazing video.
At the end of the month in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and so we really have to make maximum progress in the ones we're already playing before that one comes out. So RPG day all day with gameplay. But on today's podcast, we have two topics to discuss. First, what I thought about Yoshimitsu yesterday in Tekken 8 and my plans moving forward for the game, but also Pal World. Because last night, I played Pal World, and I'll be honest with you, it felt like I finally hit the wall, and it was a different experience.
What, you turned 30?
Streams of Pal World that I had done. And it's not good when the whole idea of this stream is supposed to be, oh, it's late night chill with the viewers, and I go to the viewers, and the viewers are disengaged, not paying attention, bored. And it's
Whose fault is that?
Why is he still playing it? So we'll talk about that, because I would like to kind of give you, now that I played Pal World for about a month.
Why is it entirely the game's responsibility to keep your viewers engaged?
Thoughts on the game, and basically tell you, kind of my final thoughts on the game, because it looks like as of now, I really don't have any further plans to play it again. So we'll talk about those two topics. Outside of that, I really wish there was like interesting game news to talk about these days, but instead, I open up the news feeds and you get a whole bunch of people arguing about
the
politics
news feeds.
again.
You mean he opens up Twitter?
People saying that the new Marvel movie sucks again. It's like the same news cycle every day, and none of it's good. Like, none of it is stuff worth talking about on the show. I am seriously hoping this soon we're going to get some good, interesting game news out of somewhere. because right now it's kind of stagnant. I'll be honest. I mean, we really haven't
Damn,
had
it's
much at all.
stagnant. That
Now
sucks.
remember, this coming Thursday
I'm gonna
is
reinstall
supposed
the
to be
Quarry. I want
a
to finish that playthrough
Microsoft
as well.
business update that they're going to talk about on their Xbox podcast. Where Phil Spencer will be there to discuss the future of Xbox gaming and dispel rumors that have been all around the last week and a half about, oh, it looks like they're not even going to sell Xboxes anymore, which, by the way, he already dispelled that rumor internally. He didn't
Dispelled. What?
no, we're not going to stop.
This vocabulary of his. All right, let's play some No More Heroes here. I have dispelled the rumors that Xboxes will no longer be sold. Xboxes will remain on the shelves. The fuck is with this, like, very small box? Why is the capture so little? I probably should have, like, fixed this before I started, but my mic wasn't even working when I started streaming. Yeah, it's crazy that the single player game is breaking the stream. I don't know what happened. It used to just work. It used to just work. That looks a little bit more like what we're trying to do. I'm not even like, I'm doing 720p at 30 frames. It shouldn't be this funky.